Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sacramento Dugout Show. I'm your host Todd Sullivan and co-host Dominic Morris. Today is a very special guest. I've been trying to get this gentleman on our show for a long time. As soon as you see him, you'll know why. The most busiest man in high school sports and Sacramento sports, Mr. Joe Davidson. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, it's good to see you guys. Good to be here. I was here many years ago doing a show much like you guys, so it's good to be here. No rotary phones, and now we have the internet too.
Yeah, we were talking to Gary, and he said make sure you bring up the fact that Joe got his start here. But it's very interesting. So back then, it was just truly it was still a community center, and this was all just getting started, right?
That's right. The community looks pretty much the same. The building looks great. It's a great way to get started. And I know Gary Martin has helped do some things at Consumers River College and the Game of the Week with that terrific crew who's done high school football for 20 years now, I think, in this region. So it's been a big boost. So it's good to be back. Yeah,
and he also, back at Arco Arena, they also brought the van there for the CIF basketball championships and the playoffs, which I know you're totally big a part of, but now they're at the Golden One Center.
Right.
So and they got easy access coming there right off 5th Street to bring all the trucks in there. What's it like media-wise being able to work in the Golden One Center?
Oh, it's a palace. It's a real gem. Arco Arena was a nice place. And then when I was covering the Kings in the NBA for a few years, you would travel around the league and you would quickly realize arenas in Denver and Milwaukee and Miami and Utah and Portland in LA, those arenas were superior to Arco Arena. Arco Arena was built on the cheap in 1988, and it just started to break down. And so when Golden One came around, it went from driving a 1973 Chevy Nova to a brand new ride. And Golden One Center is a host for the section championships for basketball, the state CIF state basketball championships. The NC2A will come back. A couple of years ago it was there, and certainly the Kings are there. And if Sacramento could get more hotels, the NBA All-Star Game will come to Sacramento too. And so that's what a new arena does. It revitalizes downtown. All those restaurants and shops downtown have helped rejuvenate the whole place. It's neat to see, and it's good for Sacramento, and it's also good for concerts. I think Paul McCartney opened that arena, so that's a pretty good headliner right there.
From what I've heard, the sound and that they get from live performances is so popular that they're talking so much that a lot of people just want to come here and play at the Golden One Center, and they're adding it to their tour.
And one thing that it's easy to overlook at Arco, there were 2 big main truck entrances to come in, unload stuff, set up a stage. Whether it was a hockey game or a concerts or something, Golden One has 6 main entrances. So imagine how much quicker that is to set up and take down.
In and out.
Time is money.
Oh, definitely, for sure.
You covered a lot of high school teams throughout the decade. What was one of the best high school teams you ever seen play in the Arco or play up here in Sacramento that you covered?
Well, these Sheldon teams of late, Sheldon and the Elk Grove Unified School District under Coach Charlie Rawlings has exceeded all the teams from the past. The competition is greater. There's the open division, which is for the elite division, elite teams, mostly private schools. So here's Sheldon as a public school. And I just wrote about that the other day in the Sacramento Bee about how Sheldon has done things that was unheard of when you were growing up in the 1980s. And I came down here, I've been at the Bee for 30 years. But some of those great Kennedy teams of the early 90s under Coach Spider Thomas were terrific, and went to Arco Arena and won back-to-back section championships in 1990-91, and that was when it was unheard of. You think, just celebrate winning a section championship. Now, a team like Sheldon's thinking, that's just the warm-up act. We want to win the NorCal and get the state. Back then, it was unheard of because the Bay Area teams were so much better. There was a Highlands team in 1983 that was 33-0 and went to a first-round NorCal game and got blown out of the water by a team from Sunnyvale. And then Kennedy in 1991 was 33-0. First-round playoffs got beat by like 30 by Bishop O'Dowd. And that team had like 12 losses. And so it's closed the gap. Our football teams now are better than ever. The Folsom teams in particular, some of the Del Oro teams, are the best teams this region's ever seen.
Yeah. You got Grant too.
Those great Grant teams. Grant in 2008 had the big breakthrough when the state The state in 2006 created the state football championships. It took that many years. It was the last state in America that had a football state championship. And it was hard to get going because there's so many schools and so many different divisions, so many different enrollment basements. And so it just wasn't easy to throw them all in one playoff allotment. They finally figured it out. And Grant went in 2008 as an open division elite team and beat Long Beach Poly in a last-minute drive. Long Beach Poly was ranked number 3 in the country, and that really put Sacramento on the map. And since then, Folsom has taken the torch and run with it. Folsom this decade, 4 state championships, 7 section championships, and 8 league championships. Jake Browning is the all-time prolific high school player in American history. He had 230 touchdowns, which is the most any high school kid's ever had, and a 4-year starter. But Washington at quarterback is going to get drafted. Jonah Williams played at Folsom. He's going to be a top 10 pick in the draft as a tackle, big dominating player. Eric Armstead's a first-round pick with the 49ers, just got extended. He's out of Pleasant Grove High in Elk Grove. So Shaq Thompson of Grant. I mean, there's been a lot of first-round picks. We've had first-round picks in football, basketball, and baseball, and it's not slowing down. I mean, you thought it was good in your day in the early 80s. No. It's gotten much better. Bigger, more schools, more enrollment, more population, more kids to pick from, and it hasn't watered it down. It's just made it better.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up, too, is I just recently saw you do your Max Prep podcast, and you were talking about an umpire shortage, referee shortage, and all that. When you see you got those elite schools like the Folsom, is it a way to where they get the top staff because of the tempo of the speed of the game that's played, or with the referee system, how do they break that down for the elite competitions like that?
It's a good question, and there's a lot of concern that the lesser teams, maybe there's an 0-9 team taking on a 1-8 team, are they going to get a good referee crew? Right. Compared to Folsom might be 9-0 taking on Del Oro, that's 9-0. And to answer your question, Todd, yeah, they're going to get the better referees. You know, the bigger high-profile games warrant that. But it also talks about, you know, well, we got a referee problem here, and why is that? It's because the fan behavior, and sometimes the coaches too, is just out of control. And you coach, you know, over the years, yep, all levels, including high school and youth, and the parents' intent may be noble, you know, want the best for their kid, but their delivery is boorish, where they're just unleashing on referees, and it's just a bad scene. And we've done some stories on that where the referee participation number across the country is down considerably. And so there's a problem. If you don't have referees or umpires or officials, you don't have games. And there's talk in California about having freshman and junior varsity baseball and softball games. Can't play them. There's no, or you're going to have a coach do it. My suggestion would be get the 2 mouthiest parents and put some gear on them and put them behind home plate. And I'll bet they'll change their tune real quick.
You think the cause of that is, you think from AAU sports, the non-high school officiated games, you know, breed that attitude of entitlement? Where do you think that comes from, where refs just don't want to officiate anymore?
They say they just don't want to, it's not worth the money and the exercise and the camaraderie that the referees have together, and they don't make big money. Mm-hmm. It's just not worth getting chased off a field, having stuff thrown at you, bricks thrown at your car.
Threatened.
Yeah, exactly. Threatened. There's horrible examples, youth sports, high school sports.
Well, my theory is it's like just in basketball particularly, like AAU games, right? It's exhibition based. You don't really care about wins and losses. It's just games, and it kind of warrants this attitude of like just entitlement. You know, teams, players switch from team to team if they don't like the team.
They don't like the coach.
They don't like the coach, and it goes the same way with officiating. If they don't like the call, they see what NBA players do. You see that in youth sports, and I think that
they're very impressionable. And these, whether it's youth kids, high school kids, they hear their parents for years. And so if their parents are belittling and berating referees, then they're going to do it. But in this region, in the Sacramento region, the behavior of the players has been exceptional. I mean, they compete, they play hard, they don't say anything. Yeah. Years ago, it was pretty bad. You know, when it was the Fab Five at Michigan, and they would stand over players, and then it sprinkled in the NBA where the bad boys from the Detroit Pistons, everything was just a brawl. And then it permeated down to the high school ranks. And then the high school referees came up with a move, totally backed and maybe initiated by the high schools and the governing bodies, that if you get thrown out of a game, football, basketball, baseball, softball, whatever, you have to sit out the following game. That cleaned up that behavior right away. And so I just wrote about this in the Bee, where the games are better than ever. Great games at Folsom football, Del Oro football, or at Grant, or at Burbank, or Elk Grove High, and right into basketball. But the fan behavior is as bad as ever.
It's just crazy.
You could hear it, just the stereo toxic nature, and these fans come into some of these games already mad. They're mad at the venue. They're mad that they're playing at this certain time. They're upset about the ticket prices. They're just unleashing, and then they unleash on the referees. If you think about referees and umpires, you guys have played baseball and different sports. The referee, umpire, or official is already somebody who's not liked, and that's before he even gets onto the field.
Right.
You're going to make one side upset.
Yeah, and there's no such thing as a makeup call. I think it's easy for us to all say that, whether we're playing or watching. And these, are some referees a little in over their head? Do some of them have egos? Absolutely. We see it at all levels, and that's not cool. But they don't, overall in general, they don't deserve the venom that they're getting.
Yeah, because the parents just don't leave it there. I mean, I've been coaching at Kennedy High School since 2005, and us coaches get it as well. Why isn't my kid playing? Oh, you don't know how to coach. I'm not going to give them my resume. I'm not going to tell them where I've been and what I've done. If you feel you can coach better, please come out and help me volunteer and coach Monday through Friday with me for 3 hours. Travel with me. Sit behind, and see what it's all about before you can start yelling at us. But it's just, I've asked my parents this, I go, when are you going to be able to let go of your child? Because there's no way you can do this if your child's going to play collegiate athletics. Your child would be kicked off the team, it's going to lose everything it has, and won't even have an opportunity to play at collegiate athletics. It's my job to teach these kids life lessons and to teach them the game of baseball and to make sure they have fun. And it's also my job to keep my job to have wins. And if I feel these are my 9 best to play out on the team, and that's what's going to be beneficial for the team and for the school, then that's where I'm going to focus my starting 9. But it's just how us coaches get berated too, that their child should be playing. I'm going to take my kid off the team if he doesn't play next week. You're hurting your kid more than you are us as a team, taking your child off.
Nothing embarrasses a student more than hearing that kind of venom. A couple weeks ago at Golden One Center, Sac Joaquin Section Championships, Division 5, small division. Argonaut High School had a girls team and a boys team in the finals. Argonaut's up in Jackson. And 2 years in a row, the parents were just relentless as they complained about everything and just unloaded on the referees, and they're cursing the referees and hope you feel better about yourself, and just their body language was horrible. And both times when the game was over and the boys team lost a couple weeks ago at Golden One, then these fans changed their tune. And they stood up and they cheered their guys and said, hey, good job, you played hard and all that. It's like, now they get it. But they spent 2 hours unleashing, and you could see the pained expressions of anguish and embarrassment of these players. They look over their shoulder like, Mom or Dad, stop. I don't know how it's going. And this is not new.
No,
this is an issue that's been around forever. And one thing that's good about social media and a phone is we see more of these brouhahas in youth wrestling or high school football, and people videotape it, and then become social media viral, and some of these people get arrested for it. Can't have it. It ruins what's supposed to be a pure fun level of competition. People do get amped up and competitive, but Todd, you bring up a good point. When do you let them go? We've seen examples where high school basketball player, the mother gets mad, she charges down to the bench and challenges the coach. He needs to play more, and you're hurting his scholarship chances. Bogus. And so she'll move her kid from school to school to school, and then he gets to college and moves him again. And the colleges don't want to hear from the parents.
Yep.
And the biggest myth in high school recruiting is, do the recruiters and the college coaches, do they care about stats and wins and losses? They don't. They're looking for
personality.
They are looking for, if they can't see the guy in person, or until they see the guy in person, they want to see a video clip of a football player or a baseball guy or a track guy, they want to see a video clip of him and they want to see his transcripts, his grades. And then they take it from there. Then they want to see him live. They don't care.
Exactly.
When I get parents that say, "Oh, well, coach asks me every day, how many did your son have last night?" That's not true. That's not true. And so the point being, if you're good enough, whether your team's a powerhouse like Folsom football or you have one win, if you're good enough, you'll go. You'll go somewhere. They're always looking for somebody.
And you can definitely see why I needed Joe on our show so often and so quick, is because he has so much information and he gets right to the point. And we have a lot more to talk about right after these messages.
We're back with the Sacramento Dugout with our guest, Joe Davidson. We have our Hot Corner segment, and it's a question I always wanted to ask. You've been covering Sacramento prep sports for 30 years. I want to know what's the biggest change from early on in your career to now. You said that there was a lot of people taping shows, taping the action, and there used to be 2 newspapers. Now there's all type of outlets. Can you explain the days of the early days till now, and what's the biggest difference?
The technology is the biggest difference. I think when we grew up, and he's much younger, the newspaper was your news source, that and a radio and a TV. And then the internet hit, which has helped newspapers. It's also killed off some newspapers, but there's still, the newspaper isn't as big as it used to be at the Sacramento Bee, but the news coverage is still just as intense online. So that's where your competition is now. Social media is totally different. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. That's a great way for schools and athletes, retired or otherwise, to promote, to showcase what they're doing. If you're doing stuff with the youth baseball kids on how to pitch, that's a great tool, is to have a video element to show it online. But it also could be a detriment. You hear the fake news thing, and a lot of people will resort to that as a way to attack media. Well, there is a lot of fake stuff, and somebody could just post anything on Twitter, and it comes across as news. Well, this coach got fired. It's not true. It's not true. So it puts more urgency on being accurate and not being first. Just make sure you get the story right, and including high school sports. If you hear about a coach who got fired or who died, you better make sure that it's true before you post anything on Twitter or Facebook or not to mention a story. And sometimes people jump the gun. Even on a national level, I'm trying to think of an example where there might be a celebrity or musician or entertainer or coach or celebrity, and so-and-so has died, ABC News has learned, and it's not true. It's not true. 3 hours later, it's true. Sound like he was near death, but
So imagine.
So you got to be accurate, right?
Yeah, I imagine your role might be like magnified now because you write for the Bee, but you're like the kind of go-to person when it comes to prep sports. So do you see like your audience get to interact more like through vehicles like Twitter and other social media platforms than just writing an article and getting a mail-in response, or like?
No, it's the social media helps a lot, and just even email. And when I have, we certainly appreciate compliments and appreciation, and we get it through social media and emails. But we get a lot of people who are just angry. And you don't cover this school, you don't care about that, and I answer them all. And sometimes I say, well, maybe you didn't read that day, or you can't read, or your brain isn't working, or you got hit by a truck. But then you'll send them 3 or 4 links. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that you did those stories. But we also tell them, hey, if you've got something that's going on, you've got a means to let us know. Attach us on Facebook or attach us on Instagram, and keep us posted. We're as good as the information that comes our way. You could go to a game and watch a game for 2 hours and not know that the star player had mother had died or overcame concussions or something, until somebody might tell you, or if you find out about that information. So it could work hand in hand, and it's a lot of media. We work together. The LA Times, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Jose Mercury News. We're competitors to a degree. Same with News 10 or KCRA or Fox 40, but we're not beyond helping each other out, let's make sure we get the information right. Is Marvin Bagley III, is he playing tomorrow for the Kings? Well, no, that's not what we heard. So get it right.
Right.
Or high school guy, is he out for this game? I don't mind sharing that information with KCRA and KCRA or any of the local TV. Their media is visual. It's video. Mine is more written with some photos. So we're not even really competing in that regard.
Yeah, I find it, more like the nostalgia of a piece of vinyl. There's people that need to hold that album cover. They need to be able to read the lyrics. They want to know the history of the song. They want to see the liner notes, and you get into the CDs, they still have all that, but nobody's reading it.
Right.
They're just dropping the CD in, and with the social media, now it's all just downloads. Because like when I was growing up, to me, it was nothing better than getting the green sheet, which was the sports section from the Union, the B's sports section, and read, because there would be the same stories, but you got different sides. You would be able to read and get more information from the newspapers. And now that I think it's more of these younger kids where it's instant and now, and that's
right.
what social media is. It's right there. It's in their hand. They have their phone, so it becomes so easy. But I'm more of that vinyl guy. I need to hold that paper.
Like that.
I get the press, the Press Democrat. I got to go ahead and get the Detroit Free Press. There's certain papers that I need to read, and if it wasn't for the internet, I wouldn't be able to.
And that's
where
the internet is kind of fun too. Back, before the internet, you couldn't even get the LA Times.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you get it? You get it in the mail.
You get it on
later.
Sundays at certain restaurants.
Exactly. Or you go to Tower and get all the papers that get delivered.
There you go. Absolutely.
But no, and what I like about my job is we're still storytelling. And if I'm doing a story on high school team or college team or a guy who's in the NFL from Sacramento, you want to tell his story. And I think people still like that. They still appreciate that.
That's what we love reading about.
We have, I think the quick hit stuff on social media also speaks to our attention span. People want something fast, and they want photo galleries, they want video clips, and all that. And so the challenges, getting back to your question, the challenges are greater. The deadlines are tighter, and it's still a fun job where you're still trying to tell a good story. And you had Mary Jo Truesdale on a couple of weeks ago from Sheldon. They're always an interesting story. How does a coach keep doing it year after year? Why does it matter?
Right.
And you don't have to do this anymore, but she does it because she feels there's worth in that. And
absolutely.
so that's and then people wonder, is it the same teams that win every year? I said, yeah, for stretches. But sometimes your upstart team becomes the refreshing storyline. Yeah, and you tell that story.
Yeah, we were talking earlier. Since open enrollment has started, that's where a so-called you got a dynasty team from a high school, and before that it was just ebbs and flows. 4 to 6 years, you got different teams in the Delta division. It was constantly turning, making it go around. Metro used to be able to do the same thing, but now you have all these independent leagues, as well as the breakup. Certain dominance of teams to where they wanted to make it more league play friendly, and that's when they pulled Kennedy out of Delta. I mean, we couldn't go up against, we were a academic school having to play Elk Grove baseball team, having to play Franklin's baseball team, and all these teams at that time that were just pure dominating in baseball.
And they had these feeder programs and
exactly.
booster programs. It's like you and I were talking about off the air, Todd, is there's a real gap that's been happening over the years in Sac City Unified School District, which for years included Sacramento High School. Then it went charter because it was dying academically. But Burbank, Johnson, Kennedy, McClatchy, those are the foundation schools of Sacramento. Absolutely. And Johnson's got a new all-weather track. Kennedy's got newer facilities. McClatchy as well. But if you look at football-wise, none of those are dominant football programs.
Exactly.
And you got to have large numbers. You got to have coaches who stick around. And schools like those that we mentioned in the Sac City Unified or those within the San Juan Unified, they have so much turnover in administrators, athletic directors, coaches, teachers. There's no stability.
Yes.
So the kids don't get any stability.
Correct.
And you talk about Kennedy, which was still a great neighborhood in Grain Haven, still an academic powerhouse, still good enrollment, 2,200 students, yep. But a lot of turnover in all the sports programs. And Folsom High School for football and basketball and wrestling has been really good this decade. It's a premier school, high academic achieving, theater, music, sciences, everything's going. But they also have a lot of stability. A lot of those teachers stick around. Same with Sheldon. So you have that Oak Ridge High up Highway 50 as well. One thing I'm refreshed about in Sacramento is this region is not dominated by private schools. So the football powers here over the years have been Grant, Folsom, Del Oro, Oak Ridge, Burbank, Elk Grove, Sheldon, Pleasant Grove, Franklin. You got schools in Elk Grove, you got schools up the Highway 50 corridor, you got schools way up Placer County, small schools too, Colfax High, Bear River High, Placer High School. Whereas in the Bay Area, private schools dominate everything. Same in San Diego, same in Orange County, same in LA. not here, fortunately. Same in baseball. Our best baseball teams are some of those same schools we mentioned, including Elk Grove, though Jesuit's been really good. But I think I would get, I think it would kill a lot of the storylines if private schools dominated everything. And that's what it is a lot of places across the country.
Absolutely. It's going to be, Jeff Carlson just recently retired. He's had a phenomenal coaching staff for a long time. It's teams like that when you have an organization, boosters, and a school that supports you to where you can have a coaching staff that is strong as that you don't have those bad turnarounds. It's you know who's there, you know the philosophies, and it's just the kids coming in, they're taught a certain way, and once they believe into the system, they're totally dominating. So I'm not concerned about Elk Grove dropping it all, and I'm sure Jeff will come out there every now and then and support his guys.
And boy, he earned his retirement. He coached
Absolutely.
for 18 years, 15 league championships, I think 17 playoff teams, 8 section championships. He's the best coach in section baseball history. The winningest coach is Guy Anderson, 800 wins or so, great career at Cordova, but won 4 section championships. I know that's not what you measure everybody by, but what Jeff Carlson did in an era where baseball's better, that's amazing. And his son was a first-round pick a couple of years ago by St. Louis, so he's going to go watch his son play.
Absolutely.
And he's got another son who's playing on scholarship at
Tanner and Dylan.
Tanner's at Long Beach State, so they've earned their
Absolutely.
retirement.
Jeff and Karen has gone through some rough times, so it's Karen has supported Jeff for many years, and now he can support her.
And she's had breast cancer survivor, other illnesses. She's been relegated to a wheelchair, but fierce spirit. She insisted that he stay in coaching.
Yep.
But is glad to have all of his attention now, and he's also a terrific football coach. And Elk Grove's been a good baseball program consistently since the early 80s. That's a long time. There's been a couple dips, but nothing more than a couple of years.
There's so many pro players come out that system. I played to the majors are in the system out of Elk Grove, and coming from the Bay Area, we'll play in tournaments, and that'll be like the team that we always play against is Elk Grove.
They do it right. They, the Babe Ruth summer programs, which all of that replaced the American Legion, which was big when you were growing up. Kennedy Valley Legion and
post 391.
Yeah, they. And so
in fact, that's when Weinstein was very popular. Jerry Weinstein, one of the best coaches. He's now the catcher's coach for the Rockies organizations. He's the one that really started the dynasty at Sac City College. It's just one of the amazing things about Sacramento and the people that continue to come back and what Sacramento sports are all about. Yeah.
No, and Jerry was the guy who created the whole phenomenon, at least around here, maybe more, where you sit on a bucket and you call every pitch from the dugout, and then the high schools pick that up. And Gary Dreyer was masterful at that in the 80s and 90s at Elk Grove. And then, I'm going to ask you as baseball guys, isn't that taking away some of the creativity and learning ability for the players? There's such a micromanaged, controlled deal where they're calling every pitch, and even the batter has to look over to see what he's allowed to do. No. So I don't know if that's what you teach at Kennedy and whatever, but as a player,
it's a great question. I'd like to work on that.
You want to be able to be independent.
Well, there's some high school teams like what we do. We actually watch film, we scout. You look at the starting 9. There's videos everywhere. If you can see somebody swing that is solid, controlled the inside, or somebody's starting with their elbow that's a little long, the pitcher knows pretty much where the coach is going to be calling the pitches anyways. There's games where I don't call pitches at all. I just say when 1, 3, and 4 come up, this is how we're going to work. When 2 through 6 come up, this is how we're going to work. When 8 and 9 come up, this is what we're going to do. If there's a runner on, look at me.
Right.
You know, so I'm always trying to give the catcher an opportunity to call his game, see what the pitcher likes to shake off, what he likes in certain, you know, as a coach, I got to learn how they're going to operate in certain situations so I can benefit them too. So you don't ever want to me anyways, call every pitch,
right.
every
but there
game,
are programs that
every
do.
batter. There are a lot of programs that do.
So 2011, I was an interim head coach for Intercom, and new program, upstart program, and I had to call the pitches. Had to call the pitches for the catchers. It was one of those programs where not the best seasoned players, but you know they still had the functions to work in. Just the game plan itself had to run by the coaches. So I think it's necessary in some points. We did it for 3/4 of the season. Towards the end, build confidence in our catcher to call games. But I think it's all a learning experience, you know.
Yeah, I guess you have to pick and choose. And you know, for some of these programs where they grow up playing baseball, like in the Elk Grove area, or in Granite Bay or El Dorado Hills, it is interesting. And then when you see it at the junior college level, where they call every pitch.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's like, okay, they're still not.
But that's
And
college
that's based
sports.
off cybermetrics too. Though
Yes.
they got all these numbers, and they're pretty much saying at this count, this pitch we throw, and it's pretty much the book
It's a
telling
totally different
telling them what
game.
to do. That's why the Dodgers lost the World Series. If he would have just thrown that book away and not gone
Right.
with the cybermetrics,
Sometimes you got to go with
they would have
human
had a chance.
feel.
and your eyes, absolutely. But Joe, we can go on forever. That's why I needed you to get this on. I sure wish we had an hour-long show, but thank you very much, you know, to take the time and be here with Dominic and Dante and I. One of the best guests. We really appreciate you
Appreciate it.
being
Good to
on.
see you guys.
Yeah, thank you. And for the Sacramento Dugout Show, for Joe Davidson, Dominic Morris, and Dante Morris, thank you and good night.